or mom pants or anything, but or bolero jackets. I grew up watching the actual TV show. So if you watch the first episode, was it the Bullets and Bras? Or Bullets, yeah, that. So that's the outfit I love. So if, you know, I don't think it needs to be a certain way to be feminist or non-feminist. It's not the clothes that make the woman, it's the woman that makes the woman. So hopefully Wonder Woman's still Wonder Woman. It doesn't matter what she's wearing.
Absolutely. Wonder Woman has owned that outfit, and she has just, yeah, she's made it. It's not, it's sexy, but she's still strong and powerful, and she's owned it. So it's, yeah, I don't get the whole, I don't get it.
Okay, no worries, just wanted your thoughts on it. Thank you.
I guess this is partly in reaction to one of the good things that I see happening with the various franchises is that, okay, they're a whole lot different now. In other words, there are a lot more women characters like Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, and so on, and more realized female characters. But that said, since people brought up the issue of Star Wars, I guess the one problem I kind of have with Star Wars is when it started out, it was sort of like, well, Princess Leia and all the guys. And then, you know, when they came up with Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, I didn't see anything too much different. So it still seems like, okay, there's one female character that's fairly realized, but it's sort of still a real guys club. And I guess what I was wondering is, if any of you, especially if those of you who work with Star Wars, had any reaction to that and anything that you could see that was improving this issue.
Well, I'll just start off by saying they definitely are trying to make a change with the Clone Wars. They made a huge step with creating Ahsoka. That she's the first female Jedi that's been a lead character that they've really focused on. But they've also put other female characters that just had small roles in the movies, and they've given them entire episodes. Luminara, Ayla Secura, Barriss Offee. There was an episode this season that was just about Ahsoka and Barriss. So two girls, literally two like 14-year-old girls, had an entire episode. So they're really trying to change that. And I have to say, everyone at Lucasfilm, they've been amazing. They recognize their female fans. They want to cater to their female fans. And I really applaud them for giving us this opportunity with Her Universe, because they've acknowledged their female fans for a while, and they just wanted to figure out how to get the stuff to them. And I definitely feel, I know Dave Filoni, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he really cares about the powerful female characters in our show. And I think they've made huge strides with maybe changing that, where they didn't put as much focus on the female characters in the movie. They're doing that with the cartoon show.
And just an additional comment on that.
Absolutely.
That was the perfect answer. That was exactly right. And just a little historical perspective. George has always said he made those movies for 10-year-old boys. And that's, you know, those early movies were made for 10-year-old boys. And I think for those of us who were alive when those first movies came out, at the time, we did appreciate, at least there was a strong female character, even if it was just Leia and the guys. She was strong, she could rescue herself, she was awesome. So it was a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And it may have been a guys club, I guarantee you when Leia spoke, they shut up. I mean, even if Han Solo was interrupting, that's called flirting. So, and also I wanted to comment, there's great Jedi, but we've got some great villains that are women, and I always like the bad girls better than the good girls. So Asajj Ventress is great, and so, you know, there's great stuff, especially in Clone Wars, because we're able to expand on it, so it's great.
Could you tell me why the Jedi can't have sex?
Oh my God, don't get me started.
That seems like an unrealized
gender
relationship for any gender.
I know. I think that's another panel, isn't it? That might be a house to celebrations coming up, so.
We could always add a panel on that.
Okay, my question is, well, I'm thrilled that, I can be a Battlestar Galactica fan and that's, more accepted and applauded now. But I have a question on the opposite end, do you see maybe why, I think there's even more stereotype against boys or men liking things that have been traditionally, women's stuff. Like, why does a movie that's intended to appeal to 10-year-old boys have to have only one female character? Or, why do boys feel embarrassed, maybe picking up, action fantasy novel that is mainly about a girl as the hero? Do you think that's just a cultural thing, or do you think there's things we can incorporate into, maybe traditionally female stories that would make them appeal more to men, just as we're talking about incorporating things into traditionally male stories to make it appeal more to women?
I have a 34-year-old male straight friend who's a Twilight fan, and I'm sorry, I'm never going to let her down. But I think it's crossing both barriers. It's being more acceptable that females are sci-fi fans, and it is getting more acceptable that males like things that are more girly. It's going to just become a broader and broader spectrum as time goes on. It's an evolutionary thing as, things become
And I
more
think
simple.
the internet is going to be, in the World of Warcraft, these online games where you don't know the actual gender of the person you're playing with. And so I think it becomes, I do think it's cultural, but I think there's a chance for a boy to create. A friend of mine who got me hooked on Xbox, he said, I made the hottest elf you've ever seen. And he played this girl elf through all of Dragon Age. So I think that, and as that happens at younger and younger ages, then I think there'll be less discomfort with, well, I can't identify with a girl in the story, I need to identify with a boy. So I think we're seeing a change, a cultural change that's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 10 to 15 years.
Great. I have a kind of question, comment about a comment that one of you guys made earlier, that women want to see relationships. And I kind of want to argue in a totally respectful way that men want relationships too. It's just that, they have their hero relationship with their nemesis and their relationship with their sidekick and their relationship with, their love interest. But with Battlestar Galactica, my father and I are both huge fans of Battlestar Galactica, and we'll sit there and we'll talk for hours about the technology and how it's so cool and how, one day Earth people can figure out how to do that. And then we'll sit there and we'll talk for even more hours about the relationships in the show. And, you've got Lee's relationship with his father, you've got Gaius' relationship with Six, you've got Boomer versus Athena, they're the same person, but they're not the same person, what's going on? And my father, who's a man, and me, who's a woman, will sit there and we'll talk for hours on end about that, and the difference there, I think that it appeals to both men and women, where in other traditional sci-fi it doesn't, is that those relationships in traditional sci-fi are demeaning to women. And then in that particular instance, and then a lot of other sci-fi that I think is cross-gender that appeals to both, is where it's not. It's something that both men and women can relate to, and something that both men and women can freely and openly talk about. And how do we get more of that? How do we get the industry to realize, hey, this is something that guys like too. That's not unique to women.
Better writing.
I want you to write something. Seriously.
Well, when you were talking, I was just thinking, clearly I have to start watching Battlestar Galactica.
Jamie wanted to say something
Yeah,
about
I want
that?
to tell you that I sat in that writer's room for, a long time, and it was always me and all those boy writers, and that's what we spent hours and hours talking about, was those relationships, and all those guys were totally invested in it, and I think there was a lot of truth in what you were saying, there is, I heard something interesting once, and I don't know if it's true, maybe it's not, but somebody told me once that they looked at the studies that say men and women's brains are different, and they compared them to all the studies that say men and women's brains are actually functionally but exactly the same, and there was a difference, that they found a statistical difference between the two studies, and it had to do with the gender of the person doing the studies. So it may very well be that we have put up artificial barriers between what men are interested in and what women are interested in. We may all be communicative and interested in relationships, and we're only just now sort of uncovering that.
Great. Yeah. I have to say, I was just talking to a straight guy yesterday that loves Desperate Housewives. So, we have time for one more question.
When people usually talk about women in fantasy and sci-fi, it tends to be the ones that are mentioned are ones where a female character sort of is in conflict with gender norms or sort of defying them in a contemporaneous way, or there's just like a world where there's gender norms that are around now don't exist. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on which, like, the merits of both of those sort of changing all of this.
Well, what I can speak to actually is something that came up at the Sanctuary panel today, because Amanda Tapping's character that she plays, Helen Magnus, is different than her Samantha Carter character on Stargate, which is a very non-sexual character, and yet Magnus has never gotten laid on Sanctuary. And so one of the things that they were talking about, which is something we talk about all the time on the show, and one of the writers, Gillian, is here, so she can attest to it, is that Magnus needs to get laid. Because it is, you know, it's true, we have these idealized, strong women, and we do grab a bit of their sexuality away from them sometimes. And I think that the really strong women are the ones who are in control of that too, and who understand that side of themselves as well. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But I want to thank Melinda, Erika, Jane, Katie, Mary, Pat, and Bob. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you.
If anybody wants a book, I brought some books to give away. So come on up and grab